Hello and welcome back to the podcast, the Be Elite podcast. Today, I, Cindy Liu,
That's Saralara.
will be interviewing Mr. Olson today. But before that, we will have the announcements today. On the next week from 9th to the 13th, we have on the 19th, 12 to 1, we have Hope Vision Center presents free virtual Zumba classes for all Elite students. And then we also have 6 to 7 Elite Parent Monthly Workshop Series. And then on the 10th, we have 1 to 2, the Art Scene Juniors webinar. 1 to 1:30, Elite Exercise with Mrs. Waters. 2 to 3 o'clock, Virtual Field Trip, 17th Century Plants and Plantation. From 6 to 7, we have Parent Workshop with U Schools Scott Skimmers. And on the 11th of Wednesday, we have no events. On the 12th of Thursday, we have from 6:45 to 9 o'clock, the Career Educational Virtual Field Trip available to all students. From 1 to 2, the Art Scene High School monthly virtual event. And finally, on the 12th, we have 12 from 2:30 to 3:30 for free virtual vocal classes with US musical lessons. And the last event we have for this week is from Friday the 13th from 5 to 6, Elite Family Cooking with Kids table. And you'll find more information about all these events inside the description and on Parent Square. Now I'll hand it off to you, Betsy.
All right. So first, would you like to introduce yourself, Mr. Olson?
Yeah, you bet. Hi, my name is Tom Olson. I am the Elite Adventure Academy lead, and that means that I get to do a bunch of fun stuff for work, basically. I get to share my passions with kids, with youth, which is really what I love about it. The Adventure Academy was created to, inspire students to be a little bit more active in the outdoors and to kind of open them up to a whole career within the recreation, hospitality, and tourism. It's a lot broader than I think a lot of people realize. And it doesn't necessarily just mean you're a tour guide. It can mean you're a naturalist, you work with the Forest Service, you're a national park ranger, all sorts of different things. So yeah, the Adventure Academy is all about that. Myself personally, I've been doing outdoor recreation for my whole life. It ended up becoming a career. I did not get my degree in outdoor rec or a recreation degree, but just through my passion for it, it really found me. So I've been teaching some form of outdoor recreation for over 10 years now. And I'm just really excited to bring my skills here to Elite and inspire the youth that we're working with.
All right. Awesome.
How
And
did you?
have you been enjoying working at Elite?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much autonomy in this job, which in one sense that's amazing. In the other sense, you kind of have to ask yourself every day, what am I doing? Um, sort of, am I on track? Am I getting us further to where we want to be, or am I just kind of treading waters? Sort of thing. So yes, it's been awesome, and it's just so great, even with COVID and the whole situation, just to still have the support, from our community that like people are so eager and ready for it. And we're
Mhm.
kind of just waiting out, we're riding the wave right now, so to speak.
All
How did you have? How did your passion for nature start? Like recreational and everything.
That's a good question. I read that and I was thinking, like, where did it start? It's kind of a hard thing to pin. But I was born in the rainforest of Washington. And when I say that, I mean, I was not in a town. I was legitimately underneath like massive trees. We lived truly in a rainforest. And I think that just had a profound effect on me, even as a youth. You don't really know when you're between 1 and 7 years old. Like, you just assume that that's the way the world is, right? So
Mhm.
I mean, I wasn't allowed to really wander off too far from my house because of the fear of cougars. We had a
Mhm.
ton of cougars around us. So I was always raised in this like very natural environment where the true dangers were the natural dangers. And I mean, even then, still, I have a hard time locking my house at times, because I'm so used to living in a very safe place. But I think that initial, placement in nature did profoundly influence me. And then when I was about 7 years old, I was moved to Montana, which is even more rural than Washington, or at least it was then. Um, and I got to really see like a change in ecosystem, being from the very, very wet forest to like the semi-arid, dry, high mountains. I think that just piqued my interest even more. I was as a young person, I was like, wow, the world isn't the same place. And that fueled this endless desire to go out and explore. And I love it. Like, there's few things I enjoy more than getting in the car and driving down a new road or trying a new trail or something like that.
How do you find all the places that you explore?
That's a good question too. I will say I am a self-proclaimed addict to Google Earth. I absolutely love Google Earth. It is my video game. I can get onto Google Earth and like waste 3 hours, lickety split, no problem. And I use it to explore places because it's so advanced now. Like, I don't, back in like 2006, it was like this blocky geometric um, Earth that really didn't tell you much. But now, I mean, the detail is almost frightening. Where you can see my grandfather mowing a lawn in Wisconsin on Google Earth, but I use Google Earth a lot, and some of it is word of mouth. And actually, good and bad, but sometimes you'll see something on social media where someone will post a picture of this incredible place, and you're like, where is that? But that's a double-edged sword because it also exploits places too. So I typically search using a 3D map.
That's awesome.
What are some of your favorite locations?
I love alpine lakes. I love high water. When there's water in the sky, I think it's like the coolest thing ever. There's this one lake that's in the mountains south of here that you just would not believe is there. Like, it shouldn't be there, but it's this hanging blue gem that's like 5,000 feet above the valley. It's just above 8,000 feet high. So it's insane. And it's just the most deep blue sapphire color. And it's just so magical. But in general, I'd have to say alpine lakes. Yep. That's definitely my happy place.
Have you ever been to something like called, it's like Whitewater? Well, that's what my mom keeps on calling it. But it's it's a small kind of like, I don't know what it's called, but it's like water and there's like rocks and there's like a lot of rocks and it's like completely clear. And it's like near like Palm Springs if you were driving that way.
Yeah, totally. I've never really explored that area deeply, actually. Not extremely familiar with it. But
because I always go there.
creek scrambles are so much fun. That is one of my favorite type of hikes. A creek scrambles where you hike up like a dried up creek. There can still be a little water, but you can still like pass it, and you're like hopping over boulders, and you're in a tank top and sandals. Like, it's so much. It's just a super relaxed way to recreate. I really enjoy those kind of hikes.
That's great. And like when you visit these new places, what is like the first thing that you do in order to, make yourself comfortable with like the new environment that you've gotten into?
That's a really, that's a great question. And I think a lot of it, you lean on your gear really heavily. The things you bring with you, if you just went out in the woods with like a lighter and a tarp, I think you'd have a bad time. So I rely on my gear to be comfortable. But I think one of the first things I do when I do get into a new environment is I look at the sun. I pay attention very intently as to where the sun is moving, because it might seem like a really good camp spot or like a good spot to set up initially, but then you realize the sun's going to go behind the ridge and you're going to get sunset 5 hours early. Or maybe if you're camped really down low on like a west face, the sun isn't going to rise until noon. So I would say I probably pay most attention to the sun when I get to a new place.
That's great. And we've been during this time of the pandemic for like 7 months, and so how has your like traveling changed since then?
I haven't gone really anywhere. I have been back to Washington. I've been back 2 or 3 times to Washington just to go visit, and I'm still quite connected to that area. So other than that, though, no, I've been pretty planted. I really haven't been in the mountains too much. A little bit, especially early on, but just with the forest fires this summer, it was between the forest fires and people moving around and all these closures. I focused a lot more on some personal projects. So, yeah.
Great.
I
got a question too.
Yeah.
It's more like academic for you, but you are the Adventure Academy lead. You're also the Nature Connection Club lead. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means, like for the Adventure Academy side and then for the club?
Yeah, you bet. So the Adventure Academy specifically falls under CTE, so career technical education, working towards getting students moving closer to a job within that industry, versus like the Nature Connection Club, which is really in its beta stage right now, is just getting kids to realize that you can be close to nature regardless of your surroundings more so. I mean, we're all on planet Earth. There are these things, whether it's the clouds, the plants that surround you, those kind of things. That's what that's really about, is just trying to create awareness and understanding as these things that maybe we consider it domestic, but we must realize that it's still a part of that greater system. So that's what the Nature Club, I guess, diverges from it, maybe a little bit more touchy-feely than hard skills like the Adventure Academy would be.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I have a question that's kind of like it. Why should students join the Nature Connection Club?
Just to add another facet to their awareness, really. You know, like, could you tell me how many hours of sun are left in the day if you didn't have your phone on you? Could you tell me what kind of clouds are passing and what type of weather that might bring? You know, these sort of things that I think are useful skills, especially if you just get an inkling like, man, it's going to rain. We better like pack up and get out of here. Or maybe it helps you identify a poisonous flower that you've never known about. So I think it could just kind of expand a little bit of knowledge that could fall into different facets of your life.
And the students that join the program, how can they apply what they learned throughout their daily lives?
That's a great point. And I would say life skills. You know, as you say, you're going on a backpacking trip per se, there's a ton of preparation that needs to happen. You have to get all of your things together so that your trip goes really well. If you don't, you'll either end up being cold or hungry or, you know, lost or all these other things. So that translates into work, that translates into, I mean, almost anything, throwing a party, getting something ready, working on a big project. You start to kind of realize the significance of planning. Among other things too, I think hard skills in particular, like starting a fire, finding clean drinking water. These are more survival skills, but maybe understanding exposure. That's something that's hard for folks, is to realize that temperature isn't everything, that it also depends on how you know, all these different things. So if you ever get stranded on the side of the road, you'll realize that you're in a very exposed situation. You should find shelter, that kind of thing. So.
That's really important because like you never know when you're gonna be in those kinds of situations, and
Exactly.
I guess you really need to learn those necessary things.
Yep. Preparedness, namely. And that's so hard because like today I got locked out of my car. Like I could have done something to have been more prepared, but it's just kind of kicking the pants. You're just like, I knew better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're always learning though, so.
Yeah.
How can students join the Nature Connection Club?
Well, actually, like I say, it's in the beta stage. So we will have signups very similar to this Google form on Parent Square that people can join, and we'll basically start what my vision is at this point is a lot of it's going to be photo and video based, because we are so disconnected. It'll basically be someone like they saw an unusual mushroom, or they saw a certain plant, or something totally weird happen. Like they saw these unusual things growing out. Maybe they didn't know what it is. It can be a way for them to post and almost be like a forum for us as a community of elite to support each other and just be like, oh, that's this thing. I have those growing in my garden, or that kind of thing. So ideally, people will be able to sign up through some sort of Parent Square forum, and then we'll have a communal page where we'll all post to and be able to share information.
And what is your most favorite thing teaching students in the program?
My favorite thing, I guess I'll lean a little bit more on past experiences, but my favorite thing is that click, is when, I don't know if you've ever tried to ski or maybe sail or windsurfing, whatever it might have been. It's really hard at first, and it's very frustrating. And to see, it's great to see people become frustrated, I guess, but it's so much more rewarding when you can work them through that frustration and get them to the success. I mean, and that's really the rewarding part, when the smile breaks on their face. And because you can resonate so much, because I know what that was like. I remember taking a windsurfing course the first time, and on like the third day of it, just like throwing the sail down and being like, this is not for me. But on the fourth day, it clicked. And I just look back to that and realize like where I was and where others are. And as an instructor, it's so wonderful to share that joy with people. It feels so good. That's definitely my favorite thing, is helping people get beyond the hurdle.
Mm-hmm. I guess like when you try something new, it's very frustrating at the beginning because you want it like immediate. And I guess like what I'm hearing is that, you know, in your classes, like you need to stay persistent in order to just like get over that hurdle. And so I think that's what people like need to, I guess, like, you know, have patience with new things, you know, not get frustrated when it doesn't work out the first time. You just have to do it the second time, the third time, the fourth time,
Yeah.
and it clicks, like you said.
And when it does, it just like, I know that you probably understand this as a student, when you're like, I get it. Like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
it is seriously just like a light gets turned on. It's such an unusual, fun thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
what was the most difficult hike you ever done before?
Difficult. Oh gosh. Oh, oof, difficult. I would say probably I'll go to one where I went on a through hike. I think it ended up being about 55 miles. And I guess I didn't realize it was going to be that long, but I ended up doing it in 3 days. And I was so tired. It was unreasonable. It was so cool. That was probably one of the hardest. I was in Colombia. I hiked across a volcanic plateau through this place called the Valley of Pleasure. And it's like set between these huge volcanoes. Um, just remarkable, spectacular. I did it alone. And I got to at the midway on the hike, where my destination was this hot spring lake. So there was this giant green lake that was bubbling out of the side of this volcano with all of these like mud cliffs you could jump off of. And that was amazing. That was outrageously cool. But thank gosh that there were little huts along the way that they would sell cheese from the cows, because I didn't realize, I mean, when converting kilometers, because everything was in kilometers to miles, and being from the Rockies, the Andes are so much bigger. Those mountains are out of this world how high. I mean, you'll climb 8,000 feet in a day, which is pretty much unheard of. So I guess I was a little underprepared for that one as well. Thankfully, there was like support for me along the way. But that was one of the more difficult ones, just because I didn't mentally prepare myself. I wasn't totally ready for that, but it was amazing. Like, no regrets.
And like you said that you had a hike for like 3 days. That means like you had to set up a tent and everything, you know, stay overnight and then go back again the next day.
I carried everything on my back for 4 months. Yep. For what I needed. Yep. I traveled out of that backpack for 4 months. I went all the way from Mexico City to Bogota, Colombia, and took every sort of mode of transportation you could think of. Pretty fun, whether it was hitchhiking in a vegetable truck or getting on a boat to make a little passage, or a 14-hour bus ride through who knows where. But yeah, very fun.
Wow.
Could you give us a little like summary of what I heard that you did a webinar a couple of days ago? Could you give us a little summary about it?
Yeah, no, it was super fun. I really love campfire cooking. I mean, aside from it making things taste delicious, I wanted to introduce kids to a really fun way to cook in the campfire. And I have an old recipe from when I was a kid, probably from Cub Scouts or something like that. But you take an orange and you hollow out the inside of the orange, so you get the rind essentially, and you fill it halfway up with orange cake batter, and then you wrap it inside, or chocolate cake batter, and you wrap it inside a little tinfoil pouch, and you put it in the fire in just the right way, and it bakes the perfect little cake inside of this orange. and it came out perfectly for the webinar. I was so grateful. I was like, thank you. Because cooking in a fire, it's very variable. You never really know, like your fire could be too hot, or you could burn through your tinfoil, or it could collapse and smash your orange. Anyway, it worked. So that was really fun.
That sounds really cool.
It was cool, yeah. It's up on our
Yeah.
YouTube too. We can.
I wanted to go, but I missed it.
Yeah, no worries. I recorded it, so it's
I'll
all
have to
on
check
there.
that out on YouTube. That sounds
Yeah.
really interesting.
Super fun. It yeah, I was able to get the whole thing set up, and it's being outside doing that kind of stuff is a whole nother layer, because right now we're in Wi-Fi, but when you leave the Wi-Fi, it adds a whole nother level of complexity when you try to start working situations like that. So I was just
Sure.
grateful it all worked.
Oh, that's so cool.
And would you be doing similar webinars in the near future?
Yes. So I know winter is right around the corner, but I would love to continue to do it every single month. Just something, even if it's me putting a GoPro on and taking you guys down a really fast ski run, or, going out ice skating, or, something like that. Even if in the winter it can become difficult. Yeah, I want to do something every single month, as an Adventure Academy offering, sort of, as well as doing our Nature Connection Club, which I want that to be more of an organic, ever going, like not a meeting time type of thing, but something that we're all actively participating in.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that you mentioned hiking, surfing, and those activities. Like, what's your most favorite outdoor activity?
Ooh, well, I got to split it by seasons. I don't know if I could choose one, to be honest. And if I could split the seasons, if I could do a summer and a winter, my winter one is backcountry skiing.
Mm-hmm.
It is so much fun. I don't know if you guys have been skiing in like a ski resort, but you always have people around you. There's always some noise. You're kind of looking over your shoulder to make sure you're not getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Floating in the chair, but backcountry skiing, it's silent. There's
Wow.
no one out there.
Oh, cool.
And you are in this like crystalline world. Like, I don't know if you spent much time in the woods, but in the winter, but ice crystals will get blown off the trees and just make rainbows. And there's still animals out. Like, we tracked wolves last winter. Eagles will fly overhead. You'll see a pine marten, chipmunks. I love that. Just for the connection side of it. And you have to work your butt off too. It's not like getting on a chairlift. You get 2 runs a day when you backcountry ski versus 20 runs.
Yeah.
But it's also like the difficulty, I guess, is that it's hard, so you have to work for something, and then the reward at the end is the awesome ride down.
Mm-hmm.
And then for summer, I'd have to say windsurfing. It is so cool. I love windsurfing so much. It's like taking a sailboat and putting it in, like, I don't know, making espresso out of it. You just shrink it down to this little nugget of amazing power. Like, what windsurfboards can do is crazy. They're so fast.
Yeah.
And you just, it's basically a wind powered jet ski is how I describe it to people, because you can do anything. You can launch off of waves. You can like surf waves just like you were actually surfing. In kiteboarding, like, I've given that a shot, but there's something about how intimate windsurfing is. You can feel the wind in your hands, like tug on the sail. I really like that. Everything's just so, it's gosh, hard to describe. It's kind of like you get in the zone,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean. Like, if you're playing a video game, or if you're like doing a game with some friends, you were like, that's what I love about it, is the world melts away and you're in like this little room of your mind. It's very cool.
Yeah, I've seen people do windsurfing, and I'm like, dang, how do they go so fast and not worry about, like, flipping over or something?
You bet. And like, I have absolutely like obliterated, like just blown into pieces and like flown off like 30 feet from my board. It doesn't
Wow.
hurt. It does not hurt. And that's why I love it too, is like, I've never been injured windsurfing. I taught windsurfing for like 6 years. I never had a kid get injured. It is a safe sport versus like kiteboarding. People get injured all the time.
It's like you think it would be dangerous because of the speed that they go to, but like you said, like, you don't get hurt or anything. So I think that's quite interesting, because it's like what you see might not be the same as what you do.
Yeah, you bet. It's like your perception, right? It's how you kind of
Mhm.
perceive something. Windsurfing you may perceive it as being scary initially, and
Mhm.
it can be, but you just get a little more comfortable. You just kind of like I say, it's kind of like getting it to click. You fall into like the room of your mind, and yeah, fear washes away, anxiety's gone, time kind of slows down. It's really crazy.
Yeah, that's great.
If you only had one place to hike, where would it be? Like if you only had one place to hike, what would you choose?
Ooh, can I choose a state, or can I choose like a region, or what's my parameters? How big?
I think a state.
A
Let's do a
state.
state.
Okay, if I had to choose one state, never to forever, I'd probably go Washington, honestly. Spent a considerable amount of time in Montana, but the season in Montana is about that long. You can go in the mountains for maybe 3 months here, and for the first month of that, you will be eaten alive by bugs, and then for the next month, you will be breathing forest fire smoke, and then for that last month, you might get 2 or 3 weeks where it's perfect. And other than that,
Oh, man.
not kidding. Like I live in Montana. I don't know if you guys know that, but we just had a snowstorm, and there's been snow on the ground for over a week. We had like -10-degree temperatures in Washington. I was like watching the weather the whole time. It was like 55 and sunny. I was like, why am I here? But it's okay. I have plans to move back. It'll be okay. Washington wins. Yep. There's just so much diversity within that state. Like you can be on the coast, especially this time of year. It's beautiful on the coast, and then you go to the other side of the mountains and you're in a desert. It's super cool. There's so much diversity. Similar to California. Very similar.
I'm going to ask a Halloween related question, but what is your favorite part of Halloween?
Ooh, I love the costumes, actually. I love seeing. I am definitely guilty of being very lame on Halloween. I'm more of a observer than a participator. But I do get a huge kick of going downtown and seeing, whether you just like find a little spot to sit and watch. That's probably my favorite part. The jack-o'-lanterns are super cool too. I love the creativity that people come up with jack-o'-lanterns.
And do you have any plans for Halloween?
I do, actually. I'm invited to a fire down at a friend's house, a little bit further south of here, so should be fun. Just something very chill, sort of like a harvest, fire kind of thing, mixing it in, because some people might do Halloween, other people might do, whatever it might be. So
That's great.
Sounds fun.
And what was like the craziest costume you've ever seen?
Ooh, ever.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard. I think my sense of humor is kind of off, but I think it's hilarious when people go as food items for Halloween.
Yeah.
I like you see people's like tacos or
Hot
someone's
dogs.
a hot dog
Yeah,
or
hot dog.
Pizza.
I love the costumes where it's like it's just kind of off, like sort of skewed, like they're not trying to impersonate someone, they're like being something very mundane. I think that's funny.
And then you just like see one of those and you're like, I should go get a pizza right now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. You're like, and it's cool when people are like creative and they make up their own, where it's like, what are they? Like you can't tell because it's like a box that's been spray painted, and then I think those are pretty funny. Just people's creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I also love it when they're like very on point for whatever happened that year. Like I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people dressed as viruses this year. Like
Oh my, yeah.
I was wondering about that too. Yeah.
little amoebas, or like who knows? Someone's gonna. I don't know. I just think that kind of stuff's funny.
And it's just making fun of the situation, just to level it up, not like be all serious about it. Sometimes you can't be serious about everything, but this is, just to have a little fun.
Yeah, and just like random, like why did you choose? I think like my neighbor's kid is going to be a traffic light for Halloween.
Oh.
He just wants to be a traffic light, and I was like,
Pretty cool.
okay. Yeah, he was. I think he wants to play red light, green light. That's the game. I think he wants to be able to like be the one that allows the red light, green light to happen. But
Be a hit at the party, yeah.
I just think it's hilarious. It's so funny.
Yeah.
What was your favorite Halloween memory?
Oh, that's a good one. Actually, when I was in like middle school, I loved to throw little parties with my friends, and I remember one party. We were just going crazy. We're in middle school too. It's not like we could have got up to too much trouble, especially back in the woods, you know, but we were just running around like crazies and all jacked up on candy. And yeah, something like that. You know, there's always those like college memories, but
We'll stick to the other ones.
Exactly. I was just like, I don't know if I need to go there. Yeah.
Good call, Mr. Olson.
Yeah, totally. At least I remember, right?
Exactly.
What about you guys? Do you guys have any like lasting memories from Halloween?
Oh, I do remember that. I used to live in San Bernardino, and there was like a street where always like this guy who would do Michael Myers, and he would just like make it all fancy and stuff. And I remember this one Halloween where he had like flashing lights, and then my dad, he gets dizzy very quickly, and he was like, man, these lights are getting me dizzy. And then it was funny because like they added like a gorilla costume, and then that gorilla was like scaring everyone, and like everybody likes to go to that street and like take pictures with him. And sometimes he would just like take out a fake knife and just like pretend stabbing everyone, and then everyone would just scream and just go out. And he would have a chainsaw also, and it
Oh
was
my
awesome.
gosh.
Yeah, like he would just out of nowhere, he would be like, all right, it's time for the chainsaw, and then and then like everybody would just scream and
Yeah,
just out of the way.
totally classic haunted house move.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. So that's like one of my favorite memories of Halloween.
That's super.
Yeah. How about you, Cindy?
All my Halloweens are pretty much the same. I dress up and I eat candy.
It's not bad though, yeah.
Maybe when I was in elementary, there was like harvest festivals and things like that. I just loved those and going. I can't remember if I wore my costume to it or not. I think you're supposed to. I can't remember, but I just really liked it. I think you're supposed to wear your costume. I especially love going to school with my costume. When I went to brick and mortar schools, when I was in elementary, I loved wearing my costumes to school and just participating in the Halloween parade and things like that.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Have you guys ever participated in a like a haunted house? Have you ever been the scarers?
I've never really been a fan of haunted houses, but I've recently, I think it was last year, where they had like a little mini haunted house, and then I was like, I told my dad, I was like, I think I'm ready to go in.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was like a small one, and so we went in, and it was cool because like they had different sections, like one for it, another one for like The Conjuring and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. It was themed off of like pop culture.
Yeah.
Cool.
Uh-huh. And it actually got us. One of them, like a clown was hid under a table, and then like he just like yelled at us and stuff like, you better go. And I was like, my dad and I was like, okay, we'll go. And then we were all freaked out, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I don't really like haunted. I remember my first haunted house was back at the festival. They had a haunted house there, and then I opened the door with my dad, and what happened was the zombie came out, literally crawling on the ground. I saw its hand, so I literally ran away and never went back to a haunted house ever again. First time.
I did get to be a scarer once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, same here. I got to help like scare people and like set it all up and figure it all out. And I don't get scared very easy, so you know it's fun to be the person on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. I want to know, when, to your memory, were you the most scared? What is a situation where you were really terrified? Do you have one?
Well, I mean, we usually spend like Halloween with our families, and we usually like group ourselves. But I remember when I was small, when I was little, I was with my parents, and then we usually just walk around the block, and there was a guy who was just standing there at his house, and he wasn't moving at all. And then I was like, should I go get candy? And then my parents were like, go. you have to go get candy. And so I just went, and I was freaked out because I was like, is he gonna move or is he just gonna stand there? And then I remembered he like moved an arm, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I just stood there, and then he just like got up on his chair, and then he just like ran after me, and I was like, no. It was like that wasn't worth for the candy.
Yeah, no, not worth it. Too funny.
But I remember I was really scared that time.
How about you,
Probably-
Nolan? Or yeah, Cindy Lou, what are you?
Probably when the the festival thing, when the zombie came out of the door. We opened the door and it started crawling. It was completely covered in like completely had makeup all over. I just couldn't. And it was completely dark, and I'm afraid of the dark. I'm still afraid of the dark. And it was like completely dark in there. I couldn't. I just couldn't go. I think that was like last time, because I don't really go trick or treating because my house is not near like other houses except for buildings and houses. So there's not really houses to go trick or treating. So I don't go trick or treating. I just like dress up and then get candy.
Play it safe. That's a good way. What about you, Nolan? Do you have one? Do you have a situation where you just like?
Yeah, probably when I was a kid, I remember going to like a harvest festival thing. I think it was for one of the churches, and I was a vampire. And I think I went into a haunted house, and I don't quite remember what it was, but I just felt something grab me. And I remember just bailing out of there as quick as I could. And I don't even know where I ended up, but I was just like far away from that haunted house. But yeah, as you get older, you're like, oh, it's just stuff. But as a kid, you're like, oh my God. Like,
yeah, can almost be traumatizing.
almost.
Almost. Yep.
I don't hate vampires or anything. Yeah.
There you go. So mine actually happened earlier this year. It's how I started 2020. But there was a full moon on January 10th or something. And I was like, this would be so cool to go cross country skiing in the full moon, like it's all illuminated. This will be awesome. So I'm out there with my partner and we start going and it's perfect. Our dog is with us and we're in the full moon and we just stop at one spot and we kind of listen and we hear this. And I was like, that's bone chilling. It's terrifying. And I just stop and my dog looks around, but then he gets in between my legs and he starts looking back and forth and we hear it again. The howl comes, but now there's two howls. And we look again and we wait a second and you can hear more wolves chiming in. We realize we are surrounded by wolves. And we started to turn around and you could hear them running towards us.
Oh my.
You could hear that, like you could hear their lope, like with their run, like running towards us, but they were only like a couple hundred yards away. So we screamed and we just started skiing as fast.
Oh, that is terrifying.
It's funny because I'm alive, but we were like mile from the car. We had seriously just started. And we got back to the car and you could still hear them in the woods behind us. It like still definitely like makes my heart pound.
So you're like, hold on now. I need a minute.
That was just kind of thinking about spooky full moon werewolves and that kind of stuff. Holy cow.
That's awesome. My mind went to werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, kind of resurgence now that it's the spooky time of year. So
perfect timing to hear about the story. I agree.
Exactly.
Yep. I guess that wraps it up, right?
That does wrap it up. I want to thank Mr. Olson for taking the time to be with us on the podcast today. And of course, I want to thank our two interviewers for taking the time to talk to Mr. Olson about his awesome programs, clubs, and just about what he's seen in this lifetime. So thank you all. And Bethsaida, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Olson, for being on the episode. And we had an amazing time talking to you. So just make sure to, everybody, Elite families, make sure to check out social media and check out this episode on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you can hear, audio and music. That's where we are. And yeah, that seems to wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good one.